Room 13 presents an experience beyond the threshold of understanding, stitched with whispers and secrets that twist reality like smoke in a midnight storm. Deep within an old coastal town stood an unassuming building, weathered by salt and time. Locals spoke of it in hushed tones, for it housed the notorious Room 13. Evergreen College, with its Victorian architecture, loomed on a cliff, overlooking the ever-turbulent Atlantic. Life there unfurled with the expected scrapes of academia, unremarkable save for one thing: the legend of Room 13. Beth Daniels was new to Evergreen, a freshman armed with freshly minted pens and notebooks, carrying the emblematic hope of a new beginning. She'd heard the whispers, nonsense really, about Room 13 and its uncanny happenings, yet her innate curiosity pricked at her insides like stars she couldn't see but knew were there. Her dorm, smaller and more cramped than she imagined, was just down the hall from Room 13. The hall itself bore a timeless aura, its wooden floors groaning underfoot, the air eternally tinged with the scent of must and ocean spray. Beth felt an inexplicable pull towards that ominous door, with its tarnished brass numbers barely holding onto the wood as if they wanted to flee. It wasn't long before the hall's eerie tales took on a life of their own in Beth's mind. Stories of students who entered the room and emerged changed, or not at all, of lights that flickered not just out, but into worlds unspoken, shadows that didn't follow the rules of light. Such rumors, she mused, were typical campus folklore. But deep down, a part of her knew this was no ordinary legend. Beth's roommate, Claire, was more attuned to caution than curiosity. She often found Beth standing in the dim hallway, her gaze fixed on Room 13. "You're going to drive yourself mad," Claire warned one evening, the glow of late summer twilight creeping through their window. "It's just an old room." But on a particular night, with the wind whistling secrets through the cracks, Beth couldn't resist. Sleep was a distant prospect, held at bay by equal parts excitement and dread, intoxicating like the strongest brew. She slid out of bed, the cold floor waking her fully. Claire remained asleep, wrapped in dreams that swirled safely behind closed eyelids. The hallway was a sea of shadows, and Beth felt like a lone sailor crossing into unknown waters. Her heart pounded a frantic rhythm as she approached the door, her fingers grazing the knob that felt strangely cold, as if imbued with the chill of things better left untouched. The moment felt suspended in time, the world held its breath. Finally, she opened the door. Darkness spread like ink before her, a heavy absence of light that swallowed sound and space. Beth's fingers fumbled along the wall until they met the switch. Light flickered, settled, revealing a room devoid of remarkable features. A simple desk, an unmade bed, the typical furnishings of a dorm, uninterested in decoration or life. Yet something was off. The air beneath her skin shivered with the subtle frequency of something unearthly. Standing there, she heard it, a faint whisper just beneath the audible threshold, like dozens of voices too quiet to discern individually. An inexplicable urge drew her further in. It was the mirror above the dresser that captured her. From the corner of her eye, it seemed merely a reflection. When her gaze settled on the glass, a different reality unfurled. It wasn't the room behind her it mirrored, but a realm cloaked in mist, shimmering with an iridescent glow. Shadows moved fluidly within, not bound by the confines of dimension. Their shapes were alien, almost constellational in their movement. Beth's breath hitched as her reflection twisted into something else, someone else. The figure in the mirror wore her face, but with dark, sunken eyes that held the weight of untold eternities. Her doppelganger's lips moved silently, forming words that she could almost understand were they not threaded with the quiet terror that congealed in her bones. As she reached out, drawn by some unseen tether, the surface of the mirror rippled, vibrating with potential. Her fingertips brushed the glass, cool yet electric, and the room around her seemed to throb and revolve. Structures of time and reality blurred, giving way to chaos. Flashes of faces, students passed, maybe, with eyes wide and mouths inaudibly screaming, flickered within the depths of mirrored glass. Paralyzed with fear, Beth wrenched herself back, stumbling against the desk. Her heart echoed the rapid drumbeat of a hunter closing in. She turned, ready to flee, only to find the door closed behind her. Panic clawed at her spine. But there was no time, no linear way to grasp what was happening. Movement behind her plucked the strands of terror within. She spun back to the mirror. Her reflection stood unmoving, yet the shadows within churned and grew louder, almost musical in their cacophony. Each note vibrated with unspeakable truths she had to know. Compelled by something primal, she leaned in closer, essence pulling her voice into existence. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice barely more than a breath. The reflection trembled, and with it, the room seemed to fold inward. The very fabric of space undulated unnaturally, and finally, the reflection spoke, Beth's own voice tossed into a chasm. "The question is, who are you?" It was then that Beth understood, and her scream was silent, swallowed by the room that now seemed inexorably alive. She was a thread caught in the web of another realm, where clarity existed alongside madness. The next morning, Claire awoke to find Beth's bed empty, undisturbed as if no one had slept there. Panic sent her racing down the hallway. She found the door of room 13 ajar, remnants of night gently spilling onto the threshold. Inside, there was no sign of Beth, save for a simple hair ribbon lying on the floor, which Claire snatched up with trembling fingers. Authorities found nothing, ultimately adding Beth's name to the few who supposedly left Evergreen without a trace. But Claire couldn't shake the feeling that the story wasn't over. Nights turned to weeks, and weeks to months, and still Claire dreamt of Beth's presence lingering around room 13. The ribbon, a silent testimony, weighed heavily in her pocket as if embedding Beth's essence into the seams of existence. It wasn't just Claire either. Others began to notice the whispers, the shudders, the peculiar feeling of being watched from places unseen. The unnerving quiet of room 13 stretched across the fabric of Evergreen like a silent scream none dared to acknowledge. Yet, if you walked the hall at the stroke of midnight, you might hear it, the whispers growing more corporeal, calling forth more than just echoes. Another year would turn, more students would arrive, more stories born beneath the weight of expectation and intrigue. One thing remained eternally certain. Room 13 stood constant as the waves thrumming against the cliff, alive with memory, sentinel of secrets, an ever-present enigma in the pulse of Evergreen. Its door was never truly closed, nor completely open, forever a precipice between what is known and what should remain untouched.